Just think of it as the rough draft of the podcast world. This is the Newbie Writers Podcast with your hosts, Damien Vogt and Catherine Bramkamp.
Welcome to episode 142. I got the number right this week. So,
142, and I had written down 141, so that just shows you.
I'm pretty sure it's 142. We should just start throwing random numbers out there.
That would be funny. Welcome to episode 5,947.
Yeah, we're still here.
And you can see why I'm a nightmare for our CPA.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just us two this week. And
it is just us two. Well, not just, but because we have lots of interesting things to discuss. But yes, today we do not have a guest.
That's right. Well, partly the reason for doing this show about, we're going to talk about technical writing, or writing for work, because it doesn't have to be technical. And it's because, well, I do a fair bit of writing, and this is proof that I do. So, yeah, we all write. We all have to. And I want to sort of explore a bit how that can then influence you personally. You know, even right down to writing emails to friends. Can you be writing something for work in a formal kind of way, and then you send an email to your mate, and you're like, well, to whom it may concern.
And we've talked about this. We'll talk about this at work, but we've talked about this before. In that you have different, because of the way that we communicate differently now, you just have different, you have different venues and different ways of communicating, and you're going to communicate differently depending on how you're doing it and to whom you're doing it. So texting to your, like you said, texting to your mates, texting to your friends who understand your particular vocabulary is going to look very different than writing a formal email in work. And your work emails should be formal.
Should they? Because I don't know. I work with a couple of guys who contract to a company who their emails between each other and also me is very informal. And by that I mean things like, good morning, face ache, here's the purchase order.
Face ache.
So, yes.
Oh, isn't that cozy? That's it.
And so I've been pulled into that loop as chuch, which is Italian for donkey. So then, can it go too far? Like I become a little bit conscious that if you start mucking around, swearing, that sort of thing, to just employees, and then his boss sees that, how does that then go down? You know, you don't want to lose a contract because you just called the person that contracted you a moron, but you're joking around. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you have to be, as much as you'd like to be super casual about that and say, oh, I was just messing around, or I just really didn't mean it. You don't know who's going to pick that up, and you don't know who's going to get all politically correct on you. So you need to be very cautious in the language and very clear in your language, and just give that piece of it up. Don't call your best friend butthead. Come up with a better fun phrase or a better nickname.
Flange face. I don't know. Yeah, I've wanted to explore this a little bit because, on the day-to-day thing, I will have to write, and I've got some examples. We can read them out. I obviously have to censor them a little bit because I don't want to be reading out actual jobs. But yeah, because I was looking through them this morning, I was trying to find one, and I found that I tend to write a little bit, I don't know what the word is. It's not that formal, but there's because I'm conscious of it, I think that's the thing. I have to remember that the people that I'm sending this to are often teachers, or they're just a business manager, IT person. They don't really need all it. They just want the basic information. Does it work? No. What did you do to fix it?
Nothing.
Nothing. I chained it to my car and drove it around a bit. It's that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then there's the what you're going to do. We call them scopes of works. See, even that term alone is a little bit too formal for my liking. But you can't send them an email with a document titled "Stuff Will Do" either.
Yeah.
It's a very fine line. I'd like to think that we at work we come across as really quite professional, which is quite important for me. But it can go too far, and I've been contracting to a company this week who have taken it so far that even I was having trouble working out what we needed to do, and I'm the person trying to follow it to put the shit in. So there was, they had like 10 sheets of is it A2 or A1, whatever the really big one is that they use for architectural drawings.
Yeah.
And they tried to cram so much information into it, I couldn't actually read the cables that they had drawn on there. So you spend half an hour, and the guy I was with had a hard hat on with a mining lamp on it, like a little torch, and he had his nose pressed against the paper trying to read the numbers because they tried to cram too much in.
Yeah. And
so I was asked for some feedback by the project manager saying, "Oh, how have you gone? What's your thoughts?" I was like, "Well, it'd be nice to be able to read it. I think you put too much information in there.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do have to dumb it down." I said to him, it reeks of that you are trying to show that you know too much, like you know it all. Who cares?
Well, and let's look at that for a second, because that absolutely is part of the problem with a lot of our writing and a lot of our communication on a business level is that people are so anxious for the recipient to understand that they know everything, that the recipient can't extract out what he needs or he or she needs to know. Because it's so densely written. It's like, oh, well, I'm really glad to have all that information, but does it work?
Yeah, it comes down to
yes or no.
Don't what's the term? Don't just explain. You don't want to write it out too much. You need to show it rather than just explain it.
Well, there's show in literature, and then there's show in your work order, and you may not need to show your work in the work order.
Yeah, well, I found with yesterday that they had all these terms and these asset numbers for cabling, and once I worked it out, I said to him on the phone, I said, "Right, all you need me to do is pull 10 of the same cables from A to B, don't you?" He goes, "Well, if you put it that way," I said, "that is how I'm putting it. I am out here trying to do this in the cold. Do you need this run from here to here?" "Yes." I said, "Good, that's all I need to know. 1 to 10, Jesus." And they get annoyed because they wanted me to write on every cable each number, H1, 1, 2, 3-4. No, 1, 2. Because at the end of the day, if it's 1 at that end, it's 1 at the other end. Put your bloody labels on it afterwards. I don't care. So yes, you can go way too far.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to read out a little bit of my scope of works, and just to sort of get a bit of a snapshot about sort of how I would write them. So say, for example, like in this case, I'd gone out to a school, and they had said, "We'd like to have some data points put in." Now, you don't necessarily need to do a scope of works, but it does kind of help because it becomes your legal document of what you'll do, I think.
Right.
That way, if the school turns to you and says, "Well, that antenna point you put in, we can't get TV in the staff room." And you go, "But my scope of works is here to do a data point so you can get internet." It just it covers you.
Didn't say TV, so you need to do that to protect yourself, and that's fine. That's totally good. I think that's what we're looking at trying when you write, is to try to get all the dots connected without talking a lot about the trip between the two dots.
Yeah, that's right. And so you can't just do it too plainly, and that's what I'm trying to get at as well with mine. I mean, I keep them fairly concise because the client, I've got to recognize, and I think most people do, people don't read them, really. They scan through them, make sure it's right, or they just look for the information that they personally want. They're not going to read it from page 1 to page 20. So.
No, that's true. They're looking for that. Maybe that's why bullet points are so popular, because you're just looking for the. We do that. I think we all do that. You're just looking for the one thing you need.
Yes. So I'll read out the first paragraph just the way I start them, And so this one, it says, this scope of works is to outline the installation and commission of 19 field outlets in various buildings throughout the school. Each outlet is to be designated for access points. All cabling is to be Category 5E with appropriate RJ45 mechanisms used on each wall plate. All wall plates are to be installed approximately 50 millimeters below the cornice height and clearly labelled. A TCA1 form will be issued upon completion. So that's how it starts.
Okay.
Are you lost yet?
No, I'm riveted. I'm just riveted.
Yeah. I'll tell you, you'd miss out watching a movie just to read this. It's amazing. Yeah, and it goes on, and then I break it down per room, per building. So it becomes, 4 or 5 pages of typing, 10 pages, 20.
Man.
The last report I did for a school where we audited it, which I've got up here, and I won't bore everyone reading that, that's 56 pages of typing.
Oh, and you're in this contract?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
And with the auditing ones, where we audit schools, we have to put down things like the projector lamp house, serial numbers, model numbers as well, in a little table for each one.
Mm-hmm.
And so
sure, because that's your list of stuff that they have, yeah.
Yeah, correct. But that's where it gets frustrating, where you have to go, oh, that's right. You can't just, guess everything. And I was manually typing this out. Here's a little thing. If you've got to do a lot of repetitive stuff, talk to your wife. Because I said to Sharon, this is annoying me. I had 3 audits to do, and they're all about 50, 60 pages worth, and I was typing them out. She goes, well, why don't you just mail merge them? Like, what? Speak English? And I Googled it, and I found out there was an easy way of getting what I had on a spreadsheet into Word, and it just went blink, ding, ding, ding. But you still need to then do a general comment on everything.
Right. But it does help to have a whole, or you just have I have templates, and I just cut and paste on things.
Yeah.
Just drop them in.
And so, but I then have to write an overall sort of review, which, you know how I have no filter? I haven't heard back from this guy, actually. And I'm starting to see why. He wanted an honest, never ever say, I'd like an honest review, please.
No. Well, yes, I did. I did say that, and I got back from you.
You did.
This opening chapter is crap.
Yeah.
So, yes, I understand the caution.
Yes, and that was my informal speak. So, would you like to hear my formal version of saying this is crap?
Sure, I would love to hear your formal version of this is crap, since I got the short version.
Well, there's a whole page. I sort of go into things. Terms like unsatisfactory and unacceptable appear a lot in the review. But the sort of sum-up paragraph was, overall, the impression we received by auditing the systems installed is that they were undertaken by inexperienced technicians with minimal audiovisual knowledge. We feel that staff at the school also need to be more diligent when it comes to reporting all faults so they can be rectified quickly rather than just putting up with them. Now, yeah. Yeah, some of it.
Or it's
just
crap.
Yeah. What else can you say? Every room in this school was awful. And I try to... That's my sort of formal way of saying it. But when I was out there, the guy said to me, oh, so what do you think? And out it came. This is awful. He says, what? I said, these rooms are awful. Start again.
Oh, wow. What did they say?
He just looked at me like, that's 55 rooms.
And it's 55 awful, kind of like 50 Shades of Grey.
Yes, which we're going to get to, about the 50 Shades of Grey. Yeah, I don't know. Writing for work. So you can see how it can be sort of quite formal. Your words, sentences are quite succinct, I think is the key. You keep it short and to the point.
If you can.
True.
Here's one of the challenges with writing for work, and I'm sure we can relate to this. When sometimes you're stuck in a whole jargon world, and you need to write according to the jargon to be considered to be taken seriously, to be considered erudite and intelligent, and you end up completely obscuring meaning, which also could be the mission of the business. I'm not sure. But it's really hard sometimes to be concise when you get feedback back from a superior who says, no, you need to junk this up before we send it out to the boards or whatever you're doing.
And yeah, if I got swamped this week, I was hoping to talk to Kiara Ballantyne, who's a lawyer, and she writes like high fantasy in her spare time, and so I wanted to pick her brain a bit about why legal speak is just full of big words and really complex, and then how does she then come home after doing that all day and then start talking about Malcor the dragon? Like how do you switch your brain to do that without using long words? It's just
Well, you can do long words and then you can fix them. They can always do that. I have I looked in my library and I have a book called from an Australian writer, Don Watson. It's called Death Sentences: How Cliches, Weasel Words, and Management Speak Are Strangling Public Language, which was clearly intriguing. Is why I picked up the book.
Yes.
So this is one of these. So I'll read. This is what I mean when you have all of this jargon and I like management speak, all this management speak piled like so much crap on top of what you may or may not mean. So here's this is the writer is seeking applications for a job in marketing, so they're trying to entice people to come in and be on their Marcom team. And here's the two sentences. Due to the nature of our industry and also the breadth of our core business offering, we have a large list of blue-chip clients. Cocky Marketing has a unique positioning in the marketplace and intends to grow upon this in the coming years.
Oh.
Whatever. And all you could do is if I saw that while I was applying for work, I would say, oh, you need somebody who can write, don't you?
Yeah. You write like that so you can show that you're a professional company, though, don't you?
Yeah.
How would you react if that was written differently? Like if it was written more casually? Would you think, oh, they're a bit of a loose company, aren't they? They don't take things seriously. You can't win.
I think you could still take it seriously, but I think that if they just said, we have a big business, our clients are super, super big and uptight, so you need to be able to toe the line.
Yeah, true. But I don't know. There's a couple of companies here in Adelaide that on their website they put things like, we have been established since 1983 and are well entrenched into the education and commercial sectors of South Australia, and this is where it lets them down. They say, and we deal with some big names in the industry.
Oh, you see, well then they're not being consistent.
Big names.
And so if you're gonna put that first part of the sentence out there, then the second part would have to be, some of our clients are considered thought leaders in their specific industries.
Yeah, right. But I don't know.
I can produce it. That's not a problem.
Is it like, what's the term? Like you got tickets on yourself though. If on your website you put, we've got some big names in the industry, and when you really grill them, you're like, well, what's the big names? And it turns out it's Giuseppe down at the pizza bar.
Right.
It's not. Yeah, you're not talking about BHP Billiton or the bank, Westpac Bank. They're big names. But if you had those names, you wouldn't need to put on your website, we have big names in the industry, would you?
No, you'd be able to list them. If they were, and that's tricky. I list my clients on my website, but I don't. In some cases, I do not link to their website. Sometimes they don't want that, so you have to be kind of cautious about that. There's some businesses where your clients are not going to be happy with you, throwing them around. Others will say, list us and put our logo up there and link to our website, and we're happy to have the extra exposure.
Yeah, I can't really do that for mine. I mean, that's just weird. You don't advertise schools on an AV website, do you?
Right. Because that doesn't actually, the only time you would do that is in your testimonial page.
I don't like testimonials at all.
Okay, now why don't you like testimonials? That's another art form is testimonials.
Because I am skeptical of all of them.
I had a feeling that was why.
Yeah. Have you ever been to a website that has a negative testimonial? No.
Yep.
So then, have you ever been to a website that you can think, well, actually, yeah, I have heard of that person that's giving that testimonial. That must be legitimate. No. It is all Steve from Pennsylvania. Right. I'd like to find this Steve and find out if he actually did buy the Powerman 3000 and if he got ripped in a week. Crap. It's all crap. There's no need for it. Like, if you're a good company, why should you put at the bottom, yeah, I loved your site? No, who cares?
Well, you need that. I think that for the most part, you want to have third-party endorsement because then you're not saying it yourself. Someone else is saying it on your behalf. Now, that's not to say that we don't all, particularly, let's say you're looking for blurbs or reviews for your books. Yes, I am sending my friends, requests and saying, hey, can you write up, a blurb? Can you write up something for the back of the book? Here's what I need you to say. Oh, and by the way, here's what the book's about. It's like, I've absolutely done it, and so you do want to give yourself some pause and go for a triage and say, all right, how many, especially like in review situations, how many reviews are there? How many good? How many bad? Are there some honest ones? To kind of give a little more vermicitude to what the reviews are saying and to the site.
Yeah, but there's just you can't verify them. That's my problem. So you've just got these names at the bottom that says that this site is awesome or that this company is really good. Where is that link that that's an actual real person and it's not just the company's mother or,
right,
something like that, or the guys just sat down and thought, And I know that they're rigged because there was another AV company, he was a friend of mine, and on his website he had a picture with like 6 vans on it and said, our fleet of technicians can come out. And it was just him in a crappy white van. And then a mate of ours put, he put a testimonial up going, very professional company with prompt service. I'm going, why? Why even bother? It's just, yes. So I don't do testimonials. If people like my work, the testimonial is that they'll tell someone else on their own accord, and that other person will ring me. So I don't know.
So, but that's interesting. There's an art. I mean, I've done it for clients where I've solicited testimonials, and there's definitely, when you talk about working for business, there's an art to it. You need to ask the right questions. You need to say, I would just explain, here's what we're trying to do. We need to promote this particular product, and it's an online product. Did you experience it? And at that point, they can say, no, I wasn't really engaged with it, but my administration assistant was, or my CFO was. Let me have you call her and get a better a better read from it. So actually, I was interviewing. I probably interviewed like 20 people, and to one of them, if they had not experienced what we were asking, if they hadn't like dealt with the product, they wouldn't just blurt out a bogus
And apologies, but there's a typo in our title. We've got the Newbie Rise Podcasty. I accidentally mashed the keys. How does one change that? Real professional right now. We have one viewer at the moment. Because the rest have probably all disappeared. Going, these guys are idiots. How to write properly.
Sometimes we are.
That's fine. There's got to be a way to change the title of your own bloody show. Never mind. That's fine. Carry on. Yeah, review generate. That's going to irk me now. Sorry, I can see it on my thing. That's the spelling error. I have OCD when it comes to this sort of stuff.
Oh, that's a good thing, though. That's why I send you my books.
I don't like spelling errors. It's not hard to proofread, and clearly it is, especially when you're in a rush. Anyway, so I started to look this morning for how to write technical manuals and how to write for work, and I found some cool things. There's one. This one I want to read out very quickly because I think it's written badly. If you're going to write a how-to on how to write tech, at least proofread it back, because it doesn't seem to really read very well. I sent this to you before. I won't read it. It's a company that's done it. I won't read out their name. This was written about 10 years ago by the looks. I think it said 2004. Okay. So, company name. It's a technical writing, training, and information technology consulting company. Wow, they do a lot. In business since 1982. This manual provides technical writing guidance and sets standards for creating logical and professional written material. See, I don't like that sentence. This manual is proprietary. Oh, okay. It provides to its staff, writers, consultants, and students studying technical writing with a staff member. This manual describes the process of writing good documentation. It is designed to be read from beginning to end, as well as to be used as a guide to refer back to once the material is familiar. Okay, now.
Does anybody read a technical manual from beginning to end? That sounds excruciating.
I personally start in the middle, and when I realise I've gone too far, flick back until I find out where I need to be. But I don't like the thing that says writing guidance and set standards for creating logical and professional written material. It doesn't really read very well. And then it's got, managers express concern that reports often are not logically organised and that the same mistakes appear over and over. To remedy this, the chapters, correspondence, and reports and studies describe how to organise documents and put the tasks into perspective. Okay. So, yeah. It's a pretty crap guideline, to be honest. And the other thing is, it's got a revision history table at the start. I've never seen that before.
Huh.
So it's got the author's name, and then it's got initial draft, and then 2 months later, final draft, another year later, manual review and update. Like, who cares? It's fine to have published on and then updated. That's cool. I see that. But yeah, I don't need to know that 12 people looked at it and decided that there was something wrong with it. Yeah. If anyone is interested, though, I did find a really cool website. Dozuki.com. Dozuki. And they actually have the Tech Writing Handbook. The link will be in the show notes. And they've got all the chapters up there. It's free, by the looks. I think you can download it for use after. And they help you out as well. I think part of their thing is that they give you the Tech Writing Handbook, but if you really struggle or you don't want to do it, then they can do it for you. It's a cool laid out website. I'm quite impressed. So chapters 1 to 11, check it out. And they take a bit more of a casual thing, and they point out straight up that technical manuals, no one reads them.
Yeah. I would hope that they would know that much.
Yes. And they were talking about, I'm trying to find it now. We'll go back to the start. They were talking about the warnings. Here we go, legal requirements. And that's the whole key, right? You've got a manual, especially with my scope of works for work that I put together. It's a legal document that says this is what we're going to do. And if we don't do that, we haven't A, upheld our end of the bargain, and B, if you want us to do any extra, it's not in the document, this sort of thing. Now, they said that, many companies list warnings at the beginning of the manual to give them prominence. That's fine, but also list hazards where the reader might encounter them. They said it's tempting to front-load your manual with pages and pages of warnings as a preemptive strike against lawsuits. Lots of companies do it. Every electronic product is dangerous if you stick your tongue in the socket with the plug. This is how it's written. Like, it says, just be reasonable.
I am so glad to know that. I was confused this morning when I was faced with a toaster in an outlet.
But they said, look, we've seen warnings that border on the bizarre. Do not eat your iPod Shuffle.
Yes.
Do not use your hairdryer while sleeping. And do not use this rotary drill as a home dentistry kit. So, they take the thing that sometimes you can have too many warnings as well. So that way, no one's going to take it seriously if you've got lots of stupid things. Do not lick the back of the toaster, whatever. So you've got to try and find a middle ground. But yeah, check it out. dozuki.com.
All right.
All right.
So we have. I don't want to run out of time because we had a question from one of our listeners, one of our readers, and you sent it over to me, so you might want to read it, and let's see if we can help her.
Yeah, small problem with that. I didn't put it into the show notes. So if you've got it in front of you, then by all means read it out.
All right, then I have it.
Yes, of course you do.
You told me to put it in the show notes, and I did, and I just didn't send you the updated version, so that's my bad. So Sarah writes, I am in the process of writing a story, and every day I change my mind on the plot.
Mm-hmm.
I finally stuck with one that hopefully stays. That's a plot, I assume. Mm-hmm. Knock on wood. But even just a silly word can shatter my hope. And she didn't elaborate on what a silly word was, or a question was. How do we know when we've overthought something, and how do we know when it's good enough? And that's what confuses me.
Right.
So, a shot, and then I will take a shot at this.
I think. What's the reasoning for? I've managed to change the title, by the way, because it irked me. The edit button is amazing on Google Plus. Thank you. There's that right there. One word can just destroy everything. I don't know.
There you go. Okay, that's a good point.
Is it overthinking it? So she's not sure on the plot.
Yes.
I would probably... There's two sorts of thinking that I get drilled into me from yourself and others. Is if you've got some sort of plot in mind, just right, and then see where it takes you. The other one is if it's not working, try and plan it out. And I did this with mine. I did sit down with a pad and I just did almost like a scene-by-scene breakdown of what I had as my plot idea. It wasn't the whole story arc from we're starting here, here's the middle, hooray, they saved the day at the end. No, not going to happen. I can't think like that in that much detail. But I've got them here, and I'm thinking they might end up over here. And so you write that down. Don't be too detailed, I reckon. So it could just be one line. Jeff kills Susan. Cool. Put another line. How? ? And leave it that. Your writing will be you answer the how. Then it's Jeff gets caught. Where? ? How ? That sort of thing. You can do that and just step it through. Jeff goes to prison. Jeff goes to court. Whatever you're going to do is your rough outline.
Right.
And if you get stuck, if you then find that, well, hang on, I don't know what to do now, then just stop. Write that first bit. You might find out that you'll get to the next one. So that way at least you're clear on what you're doing for that little plot point. Because if you're just jumping around here or there, that can become quite frustrating, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does that answer the question? Probably not.
I think you make that. Those are good points where you just. I think part of it is just writing. Now, if I get stuck, and I wasn't stuck, but I was trying to figure out something. So I've got a 3-book series, and it's time travel. So I needed to. I suddenly realized I needed to keep track of who was popping up when,
Yes.
and what had they changed, as you pointed out. How does everybody change each other's worlds, and how do you drop into that, and then what happens from there? So I have a whiteboard in my office, and I spent half an hour, 45 minutes. It doesn't have to be a really long time, but I started just mapping out things on a whiteboard or doing a mind map. And sometimes, because that's a different visual and it's a different process than just writing in a computer, you think you can actually see things a little differently or think things. So what I would say is to take your idea, which is, Jeff kills, Susie, and you write that in the middle, and then you can make a little bubble off to a left side. Why?
Yeah.
How does, what did Susie do something? Is there a plot arc over there? What happens to Jeff? Does he get away? And then over here on, get away, caught. Those are 2 options, and then you have some plot arcs from there, and that gives you then this visual. So you're like, all right, before you've even written anything, and I think maybe for Sarah, maybe she's looking at her plot and she's thinking, I don't care about Jeff.
Yeah.
Okay, well then now and you can back up and let's maybe you want to take some of those ideas in another direction.
Yeah, and you can have more than one plot. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And you can also come up with plots as you're going along, which very much happens, and just take those. It's like, they should really go to space because I'm interested in that, and and then they can go off in a rocket, and it's not your book is set in 1937. That's not really going to work on the rocket thing. So take the whole rocket scenario and put it aside, put it into a file, and then for the next book, maybe that's what you focus on. So you don't lose these great ideas, but you don't necessarily have to shoehorn them into the current book you're working on just because it happens to be the current book you're working on.
I think that's the vibe I get a little bit, though, is that if she's starting this story, it's going along, then all of a sudden, dragons. And because it always comes back to dragons, and it's like, oh, that's a good idea, and then it destroys what she's currently writing. So I think if you can sit down and just in a different format, like with your mind map or me just writing it out, it gets you away from staring at a blank screen, trying to write it word for word. It sort of gives you a little bit of a snapshot, so that way you can see where you're trying to go, and your brain can be doing the story in your head while you're writing down the very short bullet points. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I think that would be the best way. And if you do come up with these other oddball plots, you can just note them down. Might be another story. You might have 3 or 4 in you. Who knows? Yeah,
absolutely. And the other piece to this, I think she made her interesting comment about just a silly word can shatter her. Our drafts. There's two features about drafts for novels. First of all, the first one is really fragile, and you don't want anybody to look at it because for the second reason, which is it should be pretty awful. That's the point. So you should be in the back of your mind as you're writing out, either dragons or not dragons, either you pushed Susie off a cliff or not. All of that is very new and very crappy. And so no, don't share it because it's crappy. But B, if you know that it's going to be bad that first round, that's very freeing, so that you don't feel shattered because it's just a draft. You're going to go back and do it again.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I don't think
so that you don't invest. I think investing at that very first, those first attempts, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a bestseller, and you're so wrapped up about that you don't focus on writing a really good scene, which is what Elizabeth Sims, who was our guest 2 weeks ago, discussed in her book, You've Got a Book in You. She very much says, just write 200 words a day and just get it out there and focus on that piece, not on this big end product, because that will stop you faster than anything else.
So you bought that book, didn't you?
I did. I bought it and I read it.
Did you read it cover to cover?
No, I don't read anything cover to cover unless it's a novel.
Right. And how is it? Is it a good book?
I have to say, and I wrote a little review on my website, so if you wanted to, you can go on yourbookstartshere.com, and there's a link to Elizabeth's website, so you can get her book. I thought it was very clever. I liked that she had, as she explained in our interview, she doesn't want writing to be so hard, and her focus is, just do a little bit, little by little, which is what we say here on the show as well. Work on it a little bit at a time, and it will start to add up. But get away from the big, oh my gosh, so nobody likes it, I'm shattered, or pull yourself away from, oh, it has to be perfect first time out. All of those are so damaging and contribute to our writer's block. And she just says, break it down. It's not that serious. It's not that hard. Just do it.
Yes. Sometimes, yeah, okay. Just doing it can be a bit hard, but that's fine.
Well, it can. You see, and I think that is because I have clients who very much want to write, but it's hard for them to find the time or the words or something, and then it helps to have a little coaching and talk it through.
Yes.
And sometimes I sit down in front of whatever project I'm working on, and I think, I got nothing. So I go to the river, or I take a walk, or I do something else, because forcing it can make it even more fragile, and you feel shattered by anybody coming up to you and saying, what are you doing? What?
Yeah, I'm trying. Oh, yes.
I'm working really hard. Do you see the blood on my forehead? I am working.
Oh, yes. Now, I've got a question to ask you.
Yes.
You write on the Newbie Writers blog.
Yes.
What's with the giant statue of a naked child on my main page?
That went for the blog on I've already forgotten what I did on Wednesday. Sorry about that. But I just thought I would go along with the blog. It's a very popular statue in Oslo, Norway, and it's just a little boy out of bronze, and it's the park, and I'm not even going to say what the park is because I'm going to pronounce it horribly, but it's a whole park of this one artist, and it's all statues of people in various times of life, and so that's the baby is one of them. But he's very, very popular baby to take your picture with. So
it's not like a statue out the front of the Child Protection Services Agency or anything.
No. It's a statue in a public park in Oslo.
Oh, even creepier.
He's with good company. There's other statues. They're just not as cranky as he is.
Is there a statue of a man in a trench coat handing him a lolly?
No, but there's men holding children and men balancing children, in either arm, and children running. It's really quite lovely.
I see. Well, thank you for that. I'm waiting to get any hate mail or letters. Why have you got a naked kid on your website?
Well, if that generates more views, fine.
No. So yeah. Anyway, you sent me something throughout the week that you said you'll get a kick out of this, and I did. Because it's a big thing here in Australia, having a shed. So 50 Shades of Grey. Follow them on Twitter at 50 Shades of Grey, and they have a number of things that I wouldn't say they're writing their book via Twitter, but they're just putting silly comments about, it's 50 Shades of Grey. It's called Erotica for the Not Too Modern Male. So I don't want to sign up for Twitter, I already am. So, yes. What have we got here? Oh, they're retweeting something.
I have the one that a friend of mine who has read 50 Shades of Grey, who sent her version, and I really, really liked it. So just so that you know what we're talking about, her sentence is, "Oh, what a pleasant surprise," she whispered breathlessly as she removed my pants and noticed the $20 bill in the dryer.
Yeah. It's the setup that's quite interesting. So,
right, it's the setup. It's the setup and then it's the shift. So in humor, you're going someplace because you're referencing something that we think we know everything about, and then You subvert it, and that's why it's funny.
So, here's a couple for you. The bed shook, creaked and rattled as she gripped the headboard and screamed out my name. It was at this point we were asked to leave IKEA. She gripped the end and tugged gently, then harder. Why isn't anything happening, she asked. It only works on the third flush, I replied. So, yeah. She dropped her skirt, pulled down her panties, and slowly lowered herself onto my lap. I really must get a new light bulb for this toilet. Anyway.
Well, I like, are you ready to be tortured in a way only a woman can torture a man, she asked. I nodded nervously. Okay, she said, and ate half my chips.
Yeah, oh, what a bitch. Yes. So they asked eagerly, do you think you can make two women happy at once? Easy, I said, and left. So yeah, check out at 50 Shades of Grey. It's very funny. So yes. All right.
Yes. We like that. Yeah, I like at least that those sentences are better than the original sentences in the book. But we've already had our rants about that.
Correct. All right. Should we do a prompt?
Yes. So here's our prompt. What is your favorite word?
Mm-hmm.
Make up a history of your favorite word, like pretend you're an OED writer, and then use that new meaning in a sentence.
Ooh. See, but my favorite word is like I said at the start of the show, chuch, which was given to me by someone at school, a teacher, of all things. Hello, chuch.
Teacher, is that what chuch means?
Chuch means donkey.
Oh, all right.
Jackass. So yeah.
Like it?
I like the word chuch. And then I started to play around with it. So if someone was like, oh, what's your name? Chuch McGee.
See, that's beautiful.
Yeah. The
and
Irish.
Then you have these layers with the meanings, with the meanings of the word underneath it. That's wonderful.
Yeah, Chuch McGee, the Irish donkey. So there you go. That's my favorite word with a meaning. What's your favorite word? And keep it clean.
Oh, I was going to say, one of my favorite words. What is my favorite word? I don't know if I should have thought of it before we started the show, because I love them all equally.
Oh, rubbish! You're not a politician. I know what your favorite word is. It's marvelous.
Marvelous.
You like marvelous because you were using that in Future Girls a bit, I think.
I did.
Yep.
I should do a word search and purge that a little bit.
Yeah, because I noticed that you'd have the main character, if she was eating something that was tasty, she'd go, oh, that's marvelous. So that's your subtle word, but you were using it in the right context. It wasn't like you were saying, well, marvelous has a meaning of, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't know. You failed at your own prompt.
I know, I did.
Let's do it.
Well, sometimes it takes, in my defense, sometimes it takes a minute to figure out what your favorite word is. But that could be a prompt, is every day, choose a favorite word and use it in a sentence. I mean, there's calendars for that, there's websites for that, but it's a vocabulary builder. We've all done that, where it's like, oh, this is going to be my new word for today, and then use it somewhere in a sentence, or use it in a poem. Use the word as a launching point for a poem every day.
Yeah, there you go. Get chuch into a sentence. Now, speaking of which, let's do a tortured one.
Okay.
Next time, don't put the wrong emphasis on the right syllable. Tortured sentences. All right. I still haven't written that piece that you asked me to do. I've got to do that.
Oh, I gave you the assignment.
I've got a note from my mum. It's all right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. You were sick this week, so maybe that's your excuse.
All right. This one is intelligence between now and the type of people who have had good work than actual photographs. If the house developing contractor Oh, God. You should listen to his advice. Suggest some things you should choose for your key workers. Consider calling the insurance office or house refurbishments within your preparation period. I remember this. This came to me in an email, didn't it?
Yes.
Right. I still don't understand it. So I got to...
Are you? I'm not clear what the action point is or what the call to action is in that sentence.
Yeah, I didn't know either. I just sent it to you going, I don't understand. My brain hurts today. Yeah.
But that goes back to don't be, or actually, I just heard this at a webinar earlier today. Do not be clever. Be clear. So even if you think that it's like, oh, we're going to make this very convoluted thing, and this is going to be interesting, but if people don't understand what you need them to do, you are failing at the language.
Yeah, I mean, this reeks of typical spam, but it's a bit of the all your base are belong to us type thing. You know, like if the house is developing contract to practice, full stop. So, way to go, spam.
Oh, I love it. I love it. It makes no sense, but that's part of the spam experience is to not make sense.
Yeah, that's right. Word of the week.
Word of the week.
Oh, this comes from a word a day with Anu Garg, and forget the website for that. Anyway, it's inspissate. Oh, that sounds terrible.
Insipsate.
No, it's INSPISSAT. Inspissate. 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 To thicken or condense. Okay. That's crap. I'm not going to get that into a sentence, and I'm not going to read out that sentence either. It's too hard to pronounce.
Okay.
All right. Now, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
I don't have a lot of shout outs, but I want to thank everyone who has purchased books in the last couple months. I had a very good month of book sales with the Real Estate Diva books. So thank you all. Thank you for purchasing a book. I appreciate that.
Did I purchase a book? I can't remember. Probably not. That's all right. Shout outs. I got no one to give a shout out to. That's fine. We've got a quote of the week. I'd like to start doing quote of the week. Let me know if you think that's a crap idea. But I saw this on Google Plus, and I promise you, it's not a grumpy cat quote. That would be too easy. So this one is, because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. There you go. I couldn't stop.
Who wrote that? That's not Emily Dickinson.
Oh, I don't know. It was just a quote on a meme. Actually, here's a shout out to that idiot who commented me in a thing on Google Plus saying Damien both should be reported for copyright infringement because he didn't understand that when you leave a comment on YouTube, it also shares it to your Google Plus account, and he thought I was just sharing something and ripping it off as my own. You idiot.
Oh.
Learn the internet or get off it. Anyway, that's just my rant. So, yeah. Because I put the comment, said, you do realise that if you leave a comment on YouTube, it shares it to your Google Plus account with the
that's
video.
The whole point. All my stuff shares across.
And his response was, get off the drugs, dude. And I'm like, oh.
Okay, so are you unfollowing him?
No, I wasn't following him. I was just some random guy. I was like, right, walking away from the computer before I hurt someone.
I'm walking.
Yeah. It's all good. Now, who have we got on next week?
We have Susan Larkin next week, and she is a very, very, very good author. She works social media well, and she has been hugely helpful in promoting Death Revokes the Offer. And so I wanted to have her on to find out how she works social media to get her books noticed and to make sales. So we're going to talk about that. Cool.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that'll do it for this week. So we touched on the writing for work. Hopefully it didn't bore people too much, but it was proof that I do writing and that there is stuff out there. See? I've got some credibility. Anyway, all right. Well, check us out on the web, newbiewriters.com. You can email me anytime, podcast@newbiewriters.com. And Catherine, you're out there somewhere on the internet.
I am out there. I'm on yourbookstartshere.com, and you can engage me in Twitter at #NewbieWriters or at @CBramCamp.
Cool. All right. Well, that'll do it for this week. So until next week, we'll see you then.
Until next week, we will be talking to Susan.
Cool.
Your book starts here on the Newbie Writers Podcast.